That's enough. Is it enough? Would be enough to go through some of the interventions of President Nicolás Maduro on behalf of that decree of 2015 in which they declared we were an extraordinary threat. And I think what we need to highlight strongly of those interventions of President Maduro when, during the infamous decree of Obama, when the sanctions began against our economy, our life, our society, the most important thing is that Maduro insisted in which it was an attack against all of Venezuela. It was an attack against all of our women, men, boys, girls. That it was an attack, a criminal way of war of new generations that affected mainly and directly civilians, innocent civilians, children, and the vulnerable population to which the Bolivarian Revolution have managed and has managed to put out of poverty and vulnerability and attend as never before in the history of this republic. And of course there were accomplice voices that pointed out like, no, those are sanctions just against Chavism. Those sanctions affect only Chavism. Now we know what's the real intention and what's the reality. When we set up all of these lies, they launched these aggressive lies against our people and against migration. Do you remember? No, that's to overthrow the government, the Chavista government. So, as a collateral damage, they called us beasts, dirt, and they promoted in an active way, and they won millions with that, promoting migration of the migration of our people to other countries, and an economic migration derived from the actions of the criminal sanctions against Venezuela. In the first period of the decree, then the sanctions, and then utilizing migration to insist in taking power and hand them over the U.S. The only interest they have, not their women, their men, no. The Venezuelan society, on the contrary, they are inside, and where they are allowed to be inside is to destroy countries. You go see Libya, Syria. They destroy countries, Gaza and Palestine. And if you go through, when migration stopped being useful and they stopped getting interest in this aspect, who is the one that has go there to protect our people beyond our borders? President of the Republic, of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, who is the one who has sent airplanes throughout the continent to go look for their people, the constitutional president of Venezuela. Who's the one who has been defending, denouncing, and managed to achieve to bring back to the country our 252 connationals, kidnapped and tortured, the immense majority of them that were in opposition parties, that used to be part of opposition parties or had ideas in which they were convinced by this far-right wing opposition leaders. And look what was the real face of the empire when they were tortured and subjected to the biggest human rights violations, jailed 24 hours a day without seeing the sunlight, in a very hard way of facing the reality. And the reality is that beyond propaganda, that's what they do, that's what the empires do to human beings, those that happen to our 252 compatriots. And what the decent countries do, what does the free countries do, and independent countries, to defend their people without asking in what are they thinking or for who they voted in the past elections. In defending their people, Maduro has never left behind anyone, and I refer to whole Venezuela, and that is why we managed to bring them back at a very high price, handing over criminals, mercenaries, terrorists, murderers, coup attempters, sociopaths. One of them, a homicide of 3 people in Spain. To that homicide, that murderer, the US authorities that came here to search for him, they took off their handcuffs and take him to a meeting with the criminal Nayib Bukele. There are pictures, a homicide, a people who murdered 3 people, in no way involved in matters, political matters in Venezuela. He was a murderer who tried to kill his former partner, and he killed who he thought was the lover of her former affair, and another person who was on the side of the crime. So we, of course, in fulfillment of the law, we judged him, and he had to face jail, but he was born in the United States. So on behalf of the law, international law, we deported him, and what was our surprise that his handcuffs were taken away, and then he was taken to meet Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, and now he's free in the streets of the United States, like the son of Ali Primera says, a former Marine who became a murderer. What I'm referring to, that when Minister Diosdado Cabello showed this, again the same voices appear, that these grenades, that these arms, that these weapons are against Chavistas, that the bomb that was due to explode in the Venezuela square was a bomb only to kill women and children, Chavista women and children, that the ammunitions fabricated in the clandestine ammunition industries are only led to Chavista people, and these high caliber ammunitions are destined only for Chavista people, that when they had training camps of terrorists in Colombia, and we denounced that, all of them said that those were fake news, that there were no such training camps financed by Ivan Duque, before that Juan Manuel Santos, and Colombian narco-trafficking, because it is the same thing. If you say Ivan Duque, Álvaro Uribe, and Colombian narco-trafficking, you need to say that they are the same thing. That is what is happening now, at this moment precisely. I invite the Venezuelan people to do not repeat the stupidities they build up, because every time they get more stupid and more stupid, and such imbecile ideas. How are they able to signal Venezuela against the country that has more victories against narco-trafficking, which is Venezuela, in this continent, do not exist in this continent? There are no other nation with greater victories against narco-trafficking like Venezuela. The first one, when Hugo Chavez expulsed the DEA from Venezuela, the main narco-trafficking of this planet, which is called DEA. That's the first great action against narco-trafficking in Venezuela, when Hugo Chavez asked them to leave forever. So what I want to point out and invite you to think is that those strategies of psychological war are every day get more, every time are less elaborated. If there is no country that has in a percentage place a greater seizing of cocaine and marijuana than Venezuela in 2024 and 2025, if there is no one single meter square of coca leaves in Venezuela, unfortunately, other countries are the producers of cocaine and marijuana. Unfortunately, Venezuela has been a victim of the narco-trafficking action of other countries. All of the aggressive actions against Venezuela, through explosives, arms, mercenaries, terrorists, all of them are financed with money from narco-trafficking, Colombian, Mexican, and the mafia, the Albanese mafia. And I ask myself, is the United States of America going to recognize in this case that they are allied with narco-trafficking and the Albanese mafia and Colombian and Mexican drug trafficking to invade Venezuela, or are they not going to do so? And we will have to wait to the classified documents and movies like happened in Iran, in which like happened in Nicaragua, when they did recognize that they were using drug money to attack the Sandinista revolution, when there are enough proofs and it is established that if something has characterized the fascist extremism in Venezuela is to its indissoluble alliance with the Colombian and Mexican cartels who took Guaido to the party they had in Cúcuta in February 23rd in 2019, who was not the Rastrojos band, narco-traffickers of Colombia, from whom was going to come the money to finance terrorist mercenaries of that Jordan Goudreau band. From where does this money came from? According to J.J. Hebdon, was coming from the narco-trafficking of Colombia, and of course from the money that was handed over by the USA to the extremists. They made a lot of money. The Colombian narco-trafficking and also Mexican, the fascists in Miami and the USA. It's a matter of time that we see it clear in documents, and declassified documents or investigations. It is such a level of stupidity that is almost like an insult to our intelligence. Because they couldn't even send a tiny ship to the Pacific. Why were they not even allowed to send some airplanes, tiny airplane to someone? Why are they not investigating Noboa that just stole the elections with complicity of narco-trafficking, that now is the owner of the Republic of Ecuador? Unfortunately, Ecuador has actually fully taken by narco-trafficking and the Albanese mafia. So many times we have said this, and they are deaf in their ears. There's the greatest producer of cocaine, which is not Venezuela, and there is the greatest consumer of drugs in the world, that is not the Republic of Venezuela. There is a country in the world that has faced and defeated the criminal gangs and narco-trafficking and mercenaries and paramilitaries. So whoever it is, the foreigner that enters this country without allowance, enters but is not due to leave the country, he will stay here. He will stay here in jail, or he will stay under any circumstance. This is not ego, neither an attempt to fall into any provocation. I'm saying this in a responsible way because it is our duty. We are obliged to, and I refer to the 30,000 Venezuela, 30 millions of Venezuelans, we are obliged to defend this sacred soil, to defend our sacred sky and our seas and rivers, and we are obliged to, this is no choice, there is no choice, and besides, we are very into this, inside the sacred fire of a man that has never feared any kind of empire and defeated one and threatened two others. Simón José Antonio Bolívar Palacios and Blanco. Yet, he was not defeated completely, the Spanish Empire, and he managed to achieve the freedom of Latin America that he, through his effort and his struggle. A few moments after this famous letter to Mr. Irving, you insult me, but I'm not going to reply it, and and etc. That in that same letter he said, because Irving makes fun of the Liberator and believes that the Liberator is exaggerating regarding the true boats, because he listened to those who ride horses through rivers and get inside the boats and ships of the empire, the Spanish Empire, and expel them from the rivers. And he said to him, fortunately, it has been seen to a few of free men defeat powerful empires. Fortunately, recently we have been seeing, and I would dare to say it will be seen for the years to come, to a few of women and men, valuable and free women and men, to defeat powerful empires. So I would like, of course, to support, and I'm going to raise my two hands to vote in favor of this agreement, but I want to highlight, and I'm saying this without any calculation, and I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart, I want to highlight the speech of a deputy from the opposition to which I have been an adversary for my whole life. I was 24 years old when I was rural physician in the Amazon state, and he was the governor of the Amazon at the moment. So I've been an adversary for almost my whole life. And in spite of this, and knowing that he's an opposition, a member from the opposition, that being an opposition leader, he's always being on the other side of the walk, from a point of view of life, of policies, and of what I am. He has always had a behavior, a decent behavior regarding his adversaries, but today I don't think this was just a decent behavior. I think that man who spoke here was a patriotic Venezuelan that is member of the opposition and a member of the political party that murdered my father, and I recognize that militant from the Democratic Action, his position, his patriotic position.
y apoyándome
and supporting me
y respaldando,
and respecting.
quisiera
I would
proponer
like to propose
que se agregara
to be added
en el texto
in
del
the
acuerdo
text of the agreement
la convocatoria a
the
la Unión
call for
Nacional
the national union
de todos,
of all of
de
us,
mujeres, de
women,
hombres, de niños, de
men,
niñas,
boys
de
and
abuelas,
girls,
de abuelos.
grandfathers and
Así
grandmothers,
como está unida nuestra Fuerza Armada
like our
Nacional Bolivariana,
army is
así como una
united,
verdadera
like
fusión
the true
policial,
fusion,
militar,
police,
y de nuestro
military
pueblo
and
todo.
popular fusion,
Convoquémonos
we call,
todos,
let's call
sintamos
all of us,
todos
let's
nuestro
feel
uno,
this among all of us, including,
despojémonos de la
and
retórica, porque hay
let's
cosas más
get rid of
importantes que
the
los discursos.
rhetoric. There are things that are way more important than speeches. The integrity of this territory is more important than the military, the
La vida
political
plena y en paz, la
militancy,
defensa de la
the
paz
defense
de
of
nuestro
peace
país
of our
y de
country,
nuestras hijas y
of
nuestros
our
hijos, es
brother,
más
of our
importante que la
sister, of
retórica
our
política.
children is more
Que esta
important than the,
asamblea
the
convoque a la
political
unidad
militancy. For this
a la
National
unión
Assembly
nacional
to
de
call
todas y de
for the
todos,
union of all
con una sola frase.
with a single
Déjennos
phrase,
en paz.
leave us alone.
Nosotros
We
no hemos caído
haven't failed
en ninguna
in
provocación.
any provocation.
El presidente Maduro,
President Nicolas Maduro,
con la parsimonia
with
y la
his
serenidad que lo
calmness
caracteriza,
that
ha
characterizes
hecho,
him,
como
has
hizo el
made
libertador
as
con Mr. Irving,
liberators
oídos
did with Mr.
sordos de esos
Irving,
insultos.
has made deaf ears to those insults.
Una cosa
One thing
es no caer en
is
provocación.
not to fall into
Y hemos
provocations,
demostrado
and we have
en
proved
público y en privado,
publicly and privately.
porque saben ustedes que es una vaina
Because
bien difícil.
do you know what is very difficult for us? Do you think what is one of the most hard things that I had to face in my life is to speak with those U.S. officials?
Ellos cuentan con
They-
varios papeles para que los maquillen, pero
They
siempre,
have
siempre se
they
les
are
ve el
always using a disguise, but they can't hide their
Una
essence.
cosa es no caer en la
One thing is
provocación,
not to fall into provocations,
y otra cosa es
and the
eludir
other
nuestra
is to
responsabilidad, y aquí
avoid
no hay
our
un
responsibility,
hombre ni una
and
mujer
we
decente
have
en este
no
país que
man
vaya a
and
eludir su
women
responsabilidad
who
de
is going
defender
to
este
avoid
territorio.
its responsibility
vida,
to
si es
defend
necesario.
this territory, even with our lives, if it's necessary.
Quisiera agregar también
I would like to add also
que se
that
incluye en el acuerdo,
in this agreement it will
además
be
de la
included,
convocatoria de la
besides
Unión
the calling
Nacional,
to the national
y
union,
hagamos ya
and
desde este
from this very
espacio,
space
que es el espacio de la
that is the
política, que es el
space of
espacio de
the,
la interlocución,
of the policy of the dialogue,
que si es necesario
that
despojarnos de la
if it is
retórica
necessary to get
que
rid
a
of the
veces nos
rhetoric
separa, más que unirnos,
that sometimes divide us
busquemos
in
las
spite
palabras
of
que nos
uniting us, let's find the words that unite us. Let's
los
find
textos
the
que
texts
nos
that
acerquen
makes us get
con
closer
todas y con todos
to each other,
aquellos que
to all of
amamos
us,
la paz.
to all of us who love peace.
Porque quienes,
Because,
como decía Pedro,
as Pedro
se frotan
said,
las manos,
those who enjoy
ya le deben estar saliendo callos en esas
now
manos de
are
tanto
going to be facing a
formarse.
reality.
24 años en
They
esta
have 24 years in these attempts.
24 años,
24 years.
frotándose manos,
Enjoying this
dando
moment that
ultimátums
never comes
al
and
bien.
offering ultimatums
porque ellos creen
because they believe
que los gringos les van a hacer
that the
mandados.
US people are going to that act,
ellos
do
creen,
those actions
no sé por qué,
for
porque
them,
la
and
historia
they
nos ha
believe, I don't know
demostrado
why,
completamente
because history
distinto,
has proved otherwise,
que nosotros nos vamos a quedar
that we are going to
con
stand
los brazos
still,
cruzados, o que nosotros nos
or
vamos
that
a
we
dejar
are going to let this to
y a estas
happen.
alturas
And at this point of history,
deberían darse
they
cuenta
should
de qué manera
recognize
está
that
hecho Nicolás
of
Maduro
what
oro,
wooden is Nicolas
y de qué
Maduro
clase
made
de
of,
madera
and
fina
what
está
kind
hecho
of
el pueblo de
fine
Venezuela.
wooden the Venezuelan people is made of.
quisiera
I would
solicitar que
like
se
to
incorpore
ask
en el acuerdo
to be
también
incorporated in this agreement
una ofensiva
an offensive, diplomatic parliamentarian offensive, dear deputies from the opposition, dear deputies, brothers and sisters from the Bolivarian Revolution. There is anger in the great majorities of the free peoples of this world, of the free women and men of this world, that cannot believe the barbarism with which they are spreading lies, fake news. Let's go with all of our solidarity groups to call them. Let's call them. Send them communications. Let's send delegations to them for the parliaments of the world to discuss of this continent, discuss and know of what is at risk is not the security and peace and the freedom of Venezuela. Like President Nicolás Maduro said, you don't have to worry because we will know how to defend that freedom, that peace, that integrity of our territory. Do not worry about that. But what it is at risk is the security and peace of the whole Caribbean region and the security of the whole North of America, Central America, and South America. And I'm not saying this in an exaggerated way. If in the craziness, ambitious and unlawful promoted by they are promoting violence with which they are promoting violence, it would be a violence that will overshadow the whole American continent. Let's go. Let's see what do the parliamentarians of our brotherly nations have to say about this. A true offensive, diplomatic offensive of the Venezuelan parliament for our voice to be heard. Dear brothers and sisters, may we bring back the voice of Simón Bolívar to this sacred room. Fortunately, we have seen frequently a few women, free women and men, and valuable women and men to defeat powerful empires, and we will keep seeing this for sure. Thank you, deputies. We were listening to the statements of the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodríguez, in the context in which he argumented the support of the agreement for the safeguarding the sovereignty of the country. He also